Thank you for joining us. Please tell us about yourself.
My name's Anthony McGowan. I suppose I'm here because of my book, Lark, which has been miraculously shortlisted for the brilliant Carnegie Prize, Carnegie Medal, gold medal even. And it's probably about the 40th book I've written, most of which I usually write for teenagers, but I've also written for younger children and even grown-ups.
Thank you. So Anthony, how have you found writing during this period of lockdown?
Well, I found it quite difficult personally. I mean, right at the beginning, luckily I had a book to edit, so that was kind of mechanical work. I could just sit down and work through. But since then, I've been trying to do more creative work, and it's just really hard. For some reason, I can't focus. I can't make the gears whir in my head. But apart from that, I'm quite enjoying the lockdown. I know it's a terrible thing to say, but I'm having quite a nice time. My family's here. I feel less socially isolated than ever before because it's a full house. But creatively, it's not really working for me so far.
How do you think it will change as we slowly emerge back into a normality, as it were?
Well, I mean, it's a big practical change I'm looking forward to in that normally when I work in the British Library in the centre of London, which is a beautiful space to write in. It feels like a kind of creative space. So hopefully I'll be able to get back there, but I don't know when that library is going to be opening. In the meantime, I'm in this little tiny, dingy, horrible little office, which is the smallest, smelliest room in our flat.
Yeah, maybe the small I can tell, but the smelly bit I can't tell. It's something like in school, and even if you go to a place like the British Library, you'll see there are some readers there that look like they're bookworms and always enjoyed reading books. But again, from our both experiences, we'll know that there are others who are really reluctant. They'll read articles, BBC comments sections, but getting them to read books is very challenging. What's your view on that?
Yeah, well, I suppose things are different now to when I was a kid. When I was younger, there were 3 TV channels, no internet, no computers. So books were a big part of my life growing up. Whereas now there are so many amazing things for young people to do. You know, computer games are fantastic. There's a huge variety of programs you can watch now, download stuff. So there's a lot for kids to do, young people to do. So there's got to be a good reason for them to read. And I suppose that's all. I mean, some of the things that books have always been great at, to force you to put your mind into other minds, to build worlds, to take you out of this world and fill your head full of adventure and excitement. But I suppose I've always been particularly focused on those kind of young people who don't read much, the reluctant readers. And I've really targeted a lot of my books at them to try and force them to keep turning my pages. I suppose that one of the things I've always tried to do as well is to let young readers see themselves in my books. That going back to again when I was younger, one of my most important experiences was as a class, we're all reading this book called A Kestrel for a Knave by Barry Hines. It was later turned into a film called Kes, which a lot of people might know. And this was in a high school in Leeds, full of not very academic kids. You know, it's a very school in a very poor area of Leeds, and we're kind of piecing our way through the text in that awful way that school kids read. And suddenly there's one boy called David Tordoff who put his hand up and said, Miss, it's us. He kind of recognized himself and people like him in that text. And so there was that moment where suddenly people like you were allowed to be in books as well. And so I want to give that kind of experience to my readers, that sense that they're allowed to be in books.
Well, thank you for doing that for reluctant readers everywhere. So do you have a question for us?
I do. In my book Lark, which is the 4th in my series about two brothers growing up in a very difficult circumstances in the north of England, towards the end of Lark, Nicky, the narrator of the book, sees something floating in a river, which fills his heart with dread. So what is it that Nicky sees floating in the river? And the more specific you can be about that, the better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Anthony, and best of luck.
Thank you. My pleasure.